People who lost their jobs by going off on a customer. What is your story? Part 2. I didn't get fired for this one, and it was glorious. Used to work in this little Thai place in town, and we had these teenagers who came in every Sunday, were rude and demanding, and tipped 0%. One day they're exceptionally awful to a new waitress, reducing her to tears, and so my boss calls me over and says, next time they come in, you take them, and you earn that 0% tip. I do a bit of a double take. She can't possibly mean what I think she means. You mean... She nods and gives me this smile that is equal parts devious and smug. A week later, they come in 5 minutes into my shift. She seats them in my section, smiles at me, and tells me to do my worst. Here's a fairly detailed account of the wonderful 45 minutes that followed. I wait a good 5 minutes before going to greet them and bring waters. They're ready to order. I don't have a pen. I'll be right back, I promise. I loudly tell my manager I'm going out for a smoke, and then go power smoke a cigarette, which takes me about 90 seconds. They're my only table, and I'm not handling food yet, so I don't wash my hands. I reek of smoke. I take her order, pad thai, no bean sprouts like always. As he opens his mouth to tell me he'll have the same, I give him the just a minute finger and pull out my phone. I text my fiance and ask if he wants to get dinner from my place or his tonight. I take his order. I somehow misunderstand and write down extra bean sprouts. Their food comes up while I'm telling my boss and the other waitress a story about my cat. I finish telling the story before I get their food. I bring it out and walk away as they're starting to complain about the sprouts. About 5 minutes after they get the food, I get a second table. One is a customer from a former job of mine, and we spend a few minutes catching up when I go to greet them. The 0%ers try to signal me as I leave the table, but I stare straight ahead. I come back for my new table's order and see that their glasses are missing roughly 4 sips of water. This simply won't do. I hang their ticket and come back to fill their glasses. I look at the 0%'s empty glasses, look the guy straight in the eye, smile, and walk away. He stops me as I'm walking over with apps for my new table and asks for boxes. I tell him I'll grab them right after I drop off this food. I play a game of 2048 all the way up to the 1024 before bringing them one small box. They ask for 2 bigger boxes and the check. I promise I'll be right back, and then ask my boss to keep an eye on the table I like while I go smoke again. Obviously, I don't usually take this many smoke breaks, especially not this early into a shift. I come back and my boss tells me they came to her for boxes and to pay and told her they're never coming back. She voids their check, gives me the $20 and tells me I earned it. I mean, that is a pretty great opportunity, but I feel like you weren't being very subtle about it. I think it takes a lot of skill to be just like intentionally bad, but pretend like you don't even notice. Also, I think you're kind of lucky that they didn't just dine and dash. Not me somehow, but one of my coworkers. She was towards the end of a long day, and was the only register open. A customer came through, making lots of special requests, and being particularly rude when she tried to ensure everything. My coworker had enough, closed her register, moved to the next one over, and asked for the next customer. Well, I guess that's one way to get rid of somebody, just, okay, you do not exist to me anymore. Alright, next person. I used to cut hair. I was cutting a lady's hair when the child of the lady waiting started running around the shop. I told the child several times to go sit with her mother, and asked her mother to please keep her child seated next to her. Well, in the middle of cutting around my client's ear, the child ran into my work area, ran into me, and almost caused me to cut my client. I looked at the child and firmly said, "You need to go sit down with your mother now." Well, her mom didn't like that, and came running back to me and yelled, "Don't tell my child what to do, I'm her parent." I responded with, "Then act like it." She glared at me, grabbed her child, and stormed out. Everyone in the shop was relieved the child had left. A few days later, the owner came and tried to fire me for it, but luckily there were enough other stylists and clients that came to my defense about the dangers of the situation, and I only got a write-up. You know, it's kind of weird, like, a lot of places will hire a security guard, or, you know, they'll have somebody there to keep things under control, and if somebody's acting out, then they can throw that person out. But apparently, if any average employee decides to just step up to that position, then all of a sudden they get in trouble for it. I didn't get fired, but I got scolded and written up at a chain hardware store for a customer interaction. Okay, so imagine we're at a paint desk. A young couple meets me and asks for a neutral blue color and our most popular paint, eggshell finish. No problem there. I tell them to come back in a little bit. I make it and toss it in the shaker. Another guy loudly walks up to the other end of the desk and wants 2 gallons in our crappy paint in some craptastic beige color and a semi-gloss finish because his trailer isn't flossy enough. Whatever, I make it and put it in the shaker. All the while, he's talking to his wife and whoever else was with him. Remember the blue paint from the young couple? It's done, so I stick it on the desk, with their color card on top of it for identification, near where they were standing, clearly away from Crap Taco. Should be fine, that's what I figured, so I go back to whatever I was doing. Next thing I hear is Crap Taco nearly screaming, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what are you doing?" I glare at him because he's making a scene, and I ask him, still politely, what he's yelling about. He says, ever so loudly, "Is this your first day? Get me someone who knows what they're doing." Again, I ask what the problem is, since his paint isn't freaking ready yet. He says, "You can't do anything right." I snapped and replied, matching his tone and volume, as people are starting to stare. Oh, this isn't the color you wanted? No. This isn't the finish you wanted? Does this look like semi-gloss to you? It isn't even the type of paint you wanted? Nope. Well, then I guess it isn't for you, is it? And I ripped the paint away from him and gave it to the couple who was patiently waiting behind this retard. Yours will be done in a minute. And he of course cried to the managers, like the fat hairy babe he is, who of course sided with him and gave him the paint for free and then tried to fire me over something they had zero witness to. 10 out of 10, F this gay earth. Yeah, well said. I worked as a server at an upscale country club and had these two gentlemen come in for lunch. One ordered and the other said, I'll have exactly the same thing. So I confirmed that's what he wanted and he replied, that's what I said, right? I bring out their lunch and the second guy complains and starts getting rude with me because his lunch has onions on it. So I say, sir, you wanted the exact same thing, but I can have the chef make you another one. So he says, listen to me, you little effing a-hole. I know what I said, and I never said I wanted onions. So I reply, if you ever speak to me like that again, you and I are going to step outside and work this out. He pisses and moans to see the manager, who, unbeknownst to me, is sitting at the table right behind these guys, having a meeting with another member. She turns around and tells the guy, after the way you talked to my employee, I should let him. How about you both apologize and move on? P.S. I didn't get fired, but thought I should share a story where a manager actually stands up for an employee. In hindsight, she probably should have fired me because threatening violence with someone probably wasn't the best idea. Oh well, when you're 19, you think you're invincible. Ah yes, I too go to restaurants and get mad at them for bringing me exactly what I ordered. I didn't get fired for this, but I worked at a Whataburger in a very small town, and it's the only fast food joint near the high school, so lunch rushes are really bad. This guy ordered a double meat, double cheese, and I explained that cheese is extra, so he's like, cool. The guy is already ordering $30 or something worth of food. So he gets his order at the window, checks his receipt, and freaks out over the $1 cheese charge, and wants us to fix it or something. Soon told him how I already explained to him that it was extra, and he's like, no, this is too much, I want you to take it off. So there's a line wrapped around the store, and all ordering big meals. So I reach into my pocket and throw all my change at him and tell him to leave. He looks at me with wide eyes and he drives off. We had no cameras, and our manager was always in the office, so we got away with so much BS. You know, I've always been opposed to keeping change around because it's just so cluttery and clunky and it always gets lost, but I suppose that's a really good use for having change, because if somebody is demanding you give them money, you can just throw coins at them because you technically give them money, but in the worst way possible. Fired, quit, it's a gray area. I worked in the rewards call center for a casino in my youth. People would call in and book rooms or show tickets with their reward points. Naturally, everyone calling for a free room wants it on a weekend or a major holiday, and that just wasn't available. A lady called to get a free night in the top-end suite on Valentine's Day. With 2-day notice, lost her crap when I told her no, saying that she spends so much money and we don't even care enough to reward her loyalty, and even attacking me personally. I just couldn't do it anymore. I explained to her that, I see you spend about $20 an hour in the casino. Yeah, we really don't care about you. You could never come back and no one would notice. You need to start betting more than your entire family will ever be worth before we actually start caring if you come back or not. I obliged her request to speak with my supervisor and started packing my things. Yeah, I mean, it is harsh, but it is probably kinda true. I mean, Las Vegas rolls through billions of dollars probably weekly. I didn't get fired for this, which was pretty great because I threatened a mother with a timeout in front of her kids. I worked at a pool as a lifeguard, and our pool doesn't allow water wings because they aren't Coast Guard approved. But we gave out free life jackets for them to use. In comes Mama with her 2 kids. One of them was like 4 and had the water wings. I told her she couldn't use those, but we had ones available for free, and she blew up on me. I guess her daughter really liked her water wings. I told her to talk to the manager because I'm not allowed to talk while watching the pool, but she kept yelling, so I just repeated the line I'm instructed to use at kids who repeatedly misbehave. I already told you, please talk to the manager because I have to watch the pool, so if I have to talk to you again, you have to sit in timeout for 10 minutes. She glared at me and didn't even go to the manager. Man, that's probably one of the most brutal responses to somebody who's freaking out and yelling at you. You just be like, sounds like somebody needs a nap. But I would be careful with that, you're probably gonna get punched. I never got fired or reprimanded for any of these things. I'm just telling my story to offset all the rage from people being fired for telling an a-hole to F right off. So I ran a pizza shop for about 10 years. We were a privately owned, one-store operation. The owner was pretty cool, and I was the man in charge as he was never there. We were a dive in a college town, open until 4 a.m. 7 days a week. People that were about to throw up, or had already thrown up, were yelled at and shamed all the way out the door. And if their pie hadn't gotten out yet, I'd make their friends clean up the mess before they could have their food. So drunken 20-somethings won't leave at closing time? I'd take a dough tray out to their table and smash it as loudly as possible on the table in front of them until they couldn't take the racket and leave. You told the girl at the counter all the nasty crap your drunk brain wants to do to her? Dragged out in a full Nelson. Once had a guy lose it because someone who had ordered for a pickup came in after him and the picker-upper got his food immediately. Couldn't understand that the other guy had called ahead. He's still screaming in the middle of the lobby as his pie comes out of the oven. So I box it up, take it out to him, and as I get to him, I throw the box on the floor and smash it all up with my feet. Threw his money back at him over the counter and told him not to come back. I think my favorite was soda pop in a water cup. I would just walk up to the table, snatch their bevies, and call them names as I threw out their drinks. Super immature, but super cathartic as well. Our not having a public restroom regularly resulted in, well, what if I just piss in the trash can? This usually resulted in a refund thrown at them over the counter while telling them to get the F out. Occasionally they'd go ahead and start unzipping, which would get them the tried and true full Nelson dragout. Oh wow, well I guess if your whole customer base are just a bunch of jerks, you gotta fight jerks while being a jerk. Man, I'd actually like to work at this place, that sounds like a blast. So not me, but my mother's previous coworker. She worked at a burger joint restaurant, and on a busy night, this one table ordered mashed potatoes. The server tells them that mashed potatoes aren't on the menu, but they have baked potatoes. They kept on insisting that they wanted mashed potatoes, but eventually they seemed to agree that a baked potato is fine. So when the order comes out, so does the baked potato that they ordered. He puts it down on the table and the customer goes, "We wanted mashed potatoes." The server has had enough at this point and goes, "Mashed? You want them mashed?" He raised his fist and smashed it down on the baked potato, giving the customer exactly what they asked for, mashed potatoes. The management, however, did not find this dedication to the customer very professional and let him go. You know, it's gotta be really surreal for these people who just get snapped at from the employees, because like 99% of the time you go to any business, the employees are just kind of on autopilot, like working like NPCs, you know, just always very polite, like not a whole lot of personality to them. And so to see one just come out and just like start yelling and freaking out and just going way off script, it's gotta really catch you off guard. I worked at a small Blockbuster location when I was a teenager. We had a guy my manager called the Coffer. This dude would come in, grab a bunch of DVDs, shove them under his coat, then leave. When he passed through the detectors, of course the alarm would go off, and this a-hole would start coughing his lungs out, as if the sound of his hacking would drown out the alarms. Then my manager would shout, "Sir, sir, stop!" and the Coffer would take off running. He did this 4 or 5 times over the course of a year, and somehow we never recognized him when he came in. Now, the thing is, we were all expressly trained not to physically try to stop thieves. We couldn't grab them, we couldn't even stand in the doorway to stop them leaving. I guess they'd have grounds to sue Blockbuster or something if we did. This was my first real job, and after I was promoted to full-time, I got really serious about it for some reason. I was only 19, and when someone stole from us, I took it kind of personally. A year after he first shows up, I'm about to move to another state. I have my 2 weeks notice in, packing my stuff up, cue the Coffer. He does the same thing he's done for the last year, grabs 5 or 6 DVDs and starts coughing as he goes through the detectors. So having a week left with that job, I chased him and dove into his legs in the parking lot. He wrestled with me while I spit a stream of some of the most heinous cursing I've ever done. I mean, I laid into this dude, saying I hope his mother caught Montezuma's revenge and crapped herself to death. All kinds of horrible things. After about a minute of wrestling with the dude and my manager screaming at me from the door, he threw me off and ran. My manager ran after him for a block, I guess to see if he would get in a car or something, then came back and fired me on the spot. I left the state the next week, and to this day I don't know if he sued or not. I never got a call or a letter about it. I still hate that dude. Wish I'd gotten a good punch in. Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when the law favors a thief over the people they're stealing from. But that's gonna do it for our part 2 of the freaking out of customers. You know, as soon as I found this thread, I'm like, oh, everybody's gonna love these ones because entitled parents, even though I haven't done them in forever, anytime I bring them up again, everybody comes to watch it. I think that's just the only audience this channel is capable of drawing in at this point. I guess people just really love hearing stories about really terrible people in public. But that's all for now, I'll see you next time.